topic of the principles of mind, because when we think about this, as we start to think about Netter and the concept of God and our studies and all the things that we talk about in terms of history and Kemetic theology, it all kind of leads back to Ma'at. And I think about, the different aspects and the expressions of God. We've talked about this, before. Patah with creation, Atum is the rejuvenation and the self-renewal aspect of God, and Amen being that hidden aspect of God that is there and hidden away from our sight, if you will, but in our spirit. And Ra being that force, those pushes and pulls that are there, and that vitality, that life force that's an example of the animating aspect of God and the power of God. And when we think about that, all that emanating from Netter, to me, it all comes together in Ma'at. It all becomes together in something that we were looking at. And as I mentioned, I just want to kind of give a shout out to the new book that I have that's on Amazon, Religion of the Black Land. Is available now. You can take a look at it. I delve into some of these topics and some of these aspects with respect to the teachings of Mentuhotep and the Osirian Tell and the Shabaka Stone and the 42 Declarations of Innocence and so forth. I've delved into that to talk about it from a Kemetic and a Kushite perspective. What did they actually believe? And as I think about this, if you get a chance to take a look at that, I really appreciate that. As I think about this, it all kinds of comes together with respect to Ma'at. And to me, when I think about Ma'at, the most powerful force I believe in the universe that we feel is love. The most powerful emotion we feel is love. And as we talk about emotions, we've kind of, made emotions seem like they're bad. And a lot of times they associate emotions with women, right? And Ma'at obviously is represented as a woman. And this just happens to be a woman from the Middle Kingdom, a woman from the Middle Kingdom of ancient Kemet. But Ma'at is represented as a woman. And a lot of times, throughout the recent history that we had the past, few hundred years, 400 or 500 years, we have really, in religion, we have really downplayed women, and in some ways we've made, the practices and things that associated with women as being like they're less than and somehow not as important as a man. And we'll say that women are emotional. Human beings are emotional. Men get emotional. They just, they may cry. You may not see it. Obviously they cry. They get angry. Everybody has emotions, right? And so we sometimes will look at emotions as if they're bad, or to show emotions. And we think that there's only one type of emotion, like that's crying or love or something. And that's the only emotions you can feel. Emotions are all kinds of pushes and pull, all kinds of things that we experience that really move us. We're moved by things we like, things we love, things we don't like. We're repelled by them. And that concept to me from Ma'at comes down with respect to emotions, and one of the most powerful emotions, love. You think about that when you're living in a space where you're in tune with God and you're living out your truth, there's a natural good feeling that you have. There's a natural good feeling that you have about your life and about your perspective on life and the people that you meet. It comes as a part of Ma'at. It comes as a part of living in a way where you're at balance, where you're living in truth, where you don't have conflict, right? That natural, and it's just like being in love. It's like being in love with your purpose and having connection with God. It's like the same feeling, but we tend to associate emotions with something negative. And, as human beings, we're never going to get away from it. I doubt there will ever be a time that we ever get away from emotions. We are affected by pushes and pulls in all kinds of ways. We're affected by just forces from a gravitational standpoint, from a nuclear standpoint, from an atomic standpoint, all kinds of forces and we're being exposed to from a physics standpoint all the time, like science, right? But it's also obviously a part of us, which is also science. Anything we experience is science, right? It's also a part of us. And the emotions that we get to feel joy, we get to feel happiness, we feel sadness, we feel negativity. And the negative emotions pull us down. The positive emotions tend to build us up, right? They tend to even have positive effects on us, emotionally, positive effects on us, health-wise. I know of people who have been sick with very serious diseases like cancer or very serious diseases, and get in a situation where they may be surrounded by family, or they're surrounded by loved ones, or they're doing things in life, and they get a burst of energy. They get a burst of, I feel better now. My bones were aching, or I couldn't get up. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. Now I feel better because they're experiencing something that they love. Good emotions provide you with an impetus to move forward. And when I think about that, when you're living in a truth and balance, you're experiencing you're experiencing good feelings. And as we think about that, how do we live that then? How do we get to the point where we are in tune with our truth, we are in tune with God, and we're experiencing good feelings like all the time? or that's our general state, where we are at a general state of peace. And one of the most important things I think is what Shabaka says in the Shabaka stone with respect to Patah, hearing, seeing, and breathing all feed into your heart, and they make every belief come forth. What we think about, the things we meditate on create our beliefs. They create our outlook, right? So when you're at a time, maybe you were a child and you had a thought about a boogeyman, or you had a thought about something that really scared you and was a negative thought, and you as a child, couldn't control it. You're a child, right? You're thinking about this over and over again. You may have had negative thoughts, or maybe somebody bullied you, or people were mean. And you play over and over in your mind negative thoughts. It's like a record player, and it begins to make you think a certain way about yourself, make you believe certain things about yourself, make you feel you can or cannot do certain things. And that's what they did, obviously, during slavery. Racist people do that. People want to abuse you. They want to try to control your mind to make you think you can or cannot do something. And so if you're ever in a situation, even if you did something that you were ashamed of, that was wrong, that was bad, that was a long time ago, forgive yourself for that, because you probably had different thoughts feeding into your mind that helped to create the actions that brought forth the actions that you were ashamed of, that brought forth the actions that you didn't want to do. They were probably based on thoughts that you had feeding into your mind that you didn't know, or you didn't know how to control. Now that you know better, do better. Now that we're older, we can do better. And until thoughts become an important part of it, it's like your mind is a field. Imagine your mind is a big, huge green field, and whatever you want to come forth is what you spend time thinking about. And if you really think about that, you almost have no time. You almost have no time for YouTube. Unless it's something that's positive, unless it's something that's bringing forth your purpose, unless it's something that's helping you. That's the way I feel about it. I try to look at things that help me. Unless it's something that's helping you, use it. If this is not helping you, don't look at it. Don't watch it. But if it's something that's helping you, continue to watch it, because that's what's important. You don't have time for silly things. If you think about whatever you spend your time on mentally, whatever you spend your time thinking about or taking into you or breathing on and listening to is what you allow to grow in your life. You don't have time for silliness. You don't have time for silly things on television, or listening to music that pounds in your ears and says negative things over and over again, or calls women this, or talks about drugs, or talk about sex and things like that don't connect you with your purpose. It becomes really important to take control of your thoughts. How do you take control of your thoughts? How do you take control of what comes into you? It's about what you read, what you breathe on, what you take into you. And reading is a big part of that. I mean, I know a lot of people, some people like to read, some people maybe don't like it, but when you think about it or don't do it as much as they'd like to, reading is such an important part of it, I believe. Reading connects you in a way to your inner thoughts, in a way to things that motivate you in a way that other mediums don't. So for reading, when you're reading something that's motivating you, that's connecting you with your purpose, that reading, you're filling in the blanks. That person may be describing something on a page, or maybe you're really reading about a religious doctrine, or maybe you're reading something about a theological, or something that connects with what you want to do. You start to read it. You start to form the images in your mind. You start to say, what does this actually look like? What does this feel like for me? If you saw the same thing in a movie, they're going to fill in the images for you. They're going to pick the actors and the actresses. They're going to pick the scene. They're going to fill in a lot of the blanks. If you listen to it in a song, it may be a very nice song, but they're going to fill in the energy of that song for you. But when you're reading, so many of those aspects, the energy of it, the beat of it, the cadence of it, the pictures that you put to the words, what it means, what it looks like to you, you fill in all of that. And so reading becomes very important. One of the most important ways you can control what you're thinking is to control what you read, and to read, because reading feeds so much into us from an internal standpoint. And when you begin to read on and think about things that have to do with truth, think about things that have to do with God, think about things that have to do with your purpose, think about things in terms of, how do I make myself better at this? How do I make myself better at treating people better? When you start to read on things, you'll find that the things you think about, the thoughts you have are different. You don't have as much space in your mind, as much time in your mind to cultivate negative thoughts and negative emotions, because you're not bringing them in. You're not letting them, you're not giving them any place to grow, right? If you had this field and anything you think about is what could happen, anything you think about is what you could do, imagine you don't have any space in your field for stuff that's negative. Don't put anything negative in it. And I think about thoughts from the perspective of, I imagine a child. Let's say a child hasn't walked yet. It's a young child, and the child maybe doesn't even speak yet, right? And a child sees an apple or a piece of fruit or a toy or something across the room that they want. In their mind, they're just knowing, I want this, right? Or this is a toy I really want, or my big brother has this toy and I want this, right? And what they may experience is as an emotion. They may experience it as an emotion, something that a feeling of something that they want. God bless you. God bless you. Balance and righteousness is very much so, Tori. They may experience it as an emotion, as something that they want. And that emotion becomes the energy that moves us. It's something that they enjoy, something that they want to have. And without even really giving words to it, they get up and they move toward it. All they're thinking on, all they're breathing on, all they're focused on is that thing that they want. When you think about something, they don't have it yet. Maybe mom and dad had it. Maybe it's something that they tasted earlier and they want it again now, and that baby just grabs out for it or goes to get it. They are remembering the thought of what they and the experience that they had before. These thoughts that you have in your mind connects to your actions, and they just do. From a very elementary level, from a child level, from what you see, you want, you go get, to adults. We're experiencing that all the time. The thoughts that we have, the emotions that are connected with those thoughts, the memories that we have, the things that we desire to have, they impact what we do. They impact us physically and how we act. They repel us. They draw us. They have all these types of effects on us. And our ability to control them, our ability to impact them comes into what we take into our minds. And like I said, if you were younger and you experienced something you didn't like, it's probably because you had different things feeding and different thoughts coming into your mind that it helped you experience or help you display that behavior. Now that you're older, now that we're older, if we know better, do better. If we think better, we can do better. Now we know that we can put different thoughts into our mind, and it may be something that may seem challenging, but get that out. Because if you're in a situation where you're living in a way, in a manner that you don't want to live, that you don't like, something about your life you don't like, something about yourself you don't like, something about your situation you don't like, stop what you're doing. Don't keep doing the same thing. Change it. And one of the first things you do is pick up a book, is read. Read and have that personal conversation. Read and have that personal conversation with God. Pray on it. Ask for wisdom. Ask for guidance, and start to bring different things into your mind. And over time, you will start to see things change. You will see yourself change. You will see the things you think about change, and you'll start to see things change around you. You'll start to see your ability and the way in which you can change these things also manifests itself because you're giving it time. You're giving it thought. You're putting good thoughts in that green field, that field that is your mind, and you're starting to plant seeds. And you're starting to say, you know what, instead of me spending an hour or 3 hours, watching a game that means nothing to me, that whoever wins really means nothing to me, what if I spent 3 hours thinking about changing my situation? 3 hours thinking about my purpose? I bet you at the end of that 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, you'll start to find something that you could do that will begin to draw you closer to something you really love, something that's really going to benefit you. And then you start to have better thoughts, better feelings. You start to find this whole concept of ma'at, this whole concept of how do I think about, breathe on, and think about interacting with people and treating people in a way that I want to be treated and living with my purpose. You start to see this thing begin to manifest. And I believe that taking different thoughts into your mind and reading is one of the best ways you can do it. So I'm interested in your thoughts. I'm interested to see what comments you have down below. And I know there are many people who have many things that they want to say and comments around this. And, and I'm not going to diss anybody's, way of doing it. You could be someone who practices yoga, who practices meditation. And someone might say, this is the one way you do it. I know we want to say there's just one way. You just have to mantra. You just have to do this. That's all you have to do. Well, it's not just all you have to do. You really have a lot of different ways that you can begin to change your mindset and change your life. And I hope that some of these comments here help you. And I believe reading is one of them. So let me know what your thoughts are. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll be back next time.